Live from Mohegan Sun. We're right outside the Wolf Den, where we always are. Well, this is our favorite place, right outside the box office to the arena, where they have their concerts and their sporting events, and where it is the home to the CT Sun. And to find out more, you can go to cdsun.com. But let's get into some of the college football, if you want, for the weekend coming up. So much talk going on after the first week in college football, but nothing bigger than the money being laid down on the Colorado Buffaloes this week. I just heard in 2 breaks ago from ESPN National, more money's being laid down betting-wise on Colorado this week against Nebraska than all of the NFL bets combined.
That's
think
interesting.
think about how much money is going towards one college football team after 1 week of college football.
Now, I can spin this into going back to Connecticut, and it's going to blow your mind. But believe it or not, if you are right next to the sideline where the Buffs play football and you have your phone out, you can live bet the game you're sitting next to in Colorado. That's the state of Colorado. So I think it's MGM that basically owns a lot of that territory. I think there may be one or another. But when I was there over Thanksgiving, and I'm with a bunch of my friends that work in the athletic department at Colorado, it was bonkers to me, the gambling access that they grant over there at that university and in that state. I, as a player, as a gamer, as one that gambles,
Right.
I even thought like, whoa, that's a little close to the action to actually put a bet down. Now, how much more money would UConn have been bet on in the tournament when they won all the games and they beat all the spreads if people from Connecticut could have bet on UConn?
A ton. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's one thing, like you said. I mean, that's what's going on. That's what brought down whatever his name was with the whole Cincinnati thing, where you can walk inside the stadium and place bets. I mean, that's pretty close to the action.
Yeah.
Where now you're going to these venues, you can lay down money during the game. So many of these betting places, DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, and stuff like that, where you can actually bet mid-game on games. I mean, last year watching the World Series, Fox is promoting it. ESPN is now getting into betting. I mean, it's getting to the point where, as the game's going on, people are like, watching the flow of the game, so to speak, and saying, I like the way this is going this way.
Right.
Let's just say Garrett Cole's on a roll. Garrett Cole's got a no-hitter going through 5-6 innings, and you're allowed to bet on, like, the final 3 innings of the game. I mean, people are going to run to do that. That's crazy.
I think the biggest example here locally was the Travelers Championship. I saw so many people that were sitting in their seats or sitting on a hill or even standing up with their cell phones out, betting on the hole that they were actually standing on, whether or not Rory McIlroy is going to par, bogey, or birdie. And to me, I just think that's bonkers, especially in golf, because miss it, Rory, mess up.
Well, we did hear that at the Travelers, where people were yelling at the golfers, and that's something etiquette-wise has never happened.
Right.
Occasionally there's somebody yells in a backswing here and there, and like Tiger or Mickelson or somebody would make a comment. But, but now it's getting to the point, depending on how large of a bet and now, wasn't there something where you can't change the outcome of a bet? Like, there's been some prop bets where if somebody runs on the field in this this championship game,
right.
There's over-under on stuff like that. You can't be a part of your own bet.
Correct.
Isn't there something where I don't know betting well enough to know that, but isn't that part of some of the betting that you can't do?
Yeah, like the terminology, and I think that's what you're referring to. Like, I forget what it was, but there was some kind of English back room, and I don't know how they do it in Europe, that a guy would run on the soccer field at that moment. It turned out a guy's friend who made a significant bet was the one who did it. I forget the exact terminology, but it's something where you personally cannot affect the outcome of that bet. in saying all of that, and plus, I don't know if you guys have heard what's happened with Iowa and Iowa State and all of those kids. There's been a bunch of underage student athletes that have bet. They just got off with a fine. I think they paid up to about $1,000 or less for the fine to not go to jail, not go to prison. It does have a 2-year prison felony attached to it. That's what they were facing until they took the plea. And knowing all of that, and knowing what happened at Great American Ballpark with,
right.
what was it, Louisville versus Vanderbilt in baseball or something like that, Alabama baseball, that's
right.
what it was. And all of that, I'm still all for it, man. I'm still for being able to gamble and bet at the venue. I really am. I think there are enough watchdogs, there are enough people out there that are going to kick out those chumps that try to affect the outcome of the game. Plus, I think it breeds more interest.
Oh, absolutely.
If you were with me on Thanksgiving and I went to the last game of that sorry 1-11 Colorado Buffalo team getting waxed by Utah, like, it was a good, tailgate. People were having fun, but it was a dead morgue inside that venue. And you could have bet on it, but nobody wants that action. Now that they're hot and you can bet on them, so many more people are coming to the party than what they were there a year ago. And I think the betting aspect does breed interest to a lot of people who never would have thought about Colorado versus Nebraska, even if they knew what was going on Colorado TCU.
You brought this up yesterday, how much Shador Sanders has made in the last week. $2 million. $2 million, 2.5, you said? $2.5 million.
It's hard to quantify because this is all personal records, too. It's not like he's a public figure where you got to post this stuff, but estimated $2.5 to $3.5 million in the last 7 days or 6 days, 5.5.
Do you agree there should be a cutoff time? Kind of like a horse race? You think people should be allowed to bet during the game?
Yeah, I do.
I just worry about active athletes getting into it.
Oh, so true.
And gambling during the game.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm pretty close to it with Pete Rose and him doing it during the games and things like that. And things that we saw, pretty much shows you that it's not good when people have money on games that can control the outcome.
But here's the thing, Dibs. That stuff has been going on without DraftKings, FanDuel.
Well, no, I'm not saying legally. We know illegally it's been going on for 100 years. I mean, they've been fixing everything. But what I'm saying is, like you just said, I agree with that. The kids in college, that's where a lot of people are taking advantage of these kids in college and stuff like that. And it's hard to control kids, especially if they have few extra bucks, and even when they don't, putting them on credit and then getting them into debt as far as gambling goes.
So was there anything in between? Was there any big instances between the Black Sox and Pete Rose? Was there any big gambling instances that you can recall that were public?
Well, like I brought up yesterday, it was Horning and Karros were suspended a year for gambling on games in the NFL.
That was the. I'm just thinking of baseball right now because I think when you put the hammer down on someone,
might have been some umpires here and there that were getting in trouble for doing things, But again, they can change the outcome of a contest by being calls balls and strikes, things on the baselines, but nothing major that I can recall.
I just think that if you put the hammer down on some people, like the coach from Alabama, good luck getting a baseball coaching job now. And if you do, it's not going to be close to what you were doing at Alabama in the SEC. Pete Rose, still living with it. And I think baseball players, you included, I'm never going to do that. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to end up being barred from conversations, being barred from tables of where I knew I was better than other people, but because I broke the rules – I'm living the penalty.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I mean, I'm so more cognizant of it from that point in my life on, where I didn't even think about just relationships. Like I would not know if you're a member of a crime family, and we go out to dinner and stuff like that. But once the FBI explains it to you, or Secret Service would come and explain it to us in spring training, and it's like, oh no, just by someone giving you a dinner or something, you're now in not literally in bed, but in bed with them. And I'm like, seriously? Like, absolutely. That's like how Art Schlichter got involved with the organized crime families, because once either you're laying off bets or you're putting bets on stuff like that, and then all of a sudden you get into debt, then now you're trying to fix games and things like that. So for me, I was just like, oh my God, now I got to be cognizant of who I am. And remember, I told you this. The last advice that Pete gave us when he was leaving in spring training, when he got the lifetime ban and was suspended as the manager of the Reds in '89. When he was involved in all of this stuff, the last discussion we had was like, pick your friends wisely.
Yeah. For sure.
Pay close attention to your friends, because even your closest friends, you may not be able to trust them.
DDP says they're like elevators, Dibs. Some can take you up.
I just saw that same thing online, man.
Think about it. No.
Watch the one with Christopher Walken. Some friendships will slowly fade away, but your really good friendships will stay with you for life.
When you break the rules in that regard, we're talking felony, we're talking prison.
I agree, especially with the professional sports. I don't know how I can, some of these kids are just not mature enough, to not get involved with boosters, and whether it's a gambler, a booster, organized crime, whatever. But when you walk through the door in the minor leagues and then you get to the major leagues, you see, it's like Rule 21B or whatever. You cannot bet on baseball. You can't bet on sports. You can't do any of that stuff.
Fraternize.
Can't fraternize. Who's the guy who just came back from, was it Ridley? Who was the guy that got suspended in the NFL?
Was it Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they know better. They know better. A year is getting off easy, I think.
Agree with that. He's going to be playing against my Colts this weekend. He should be done. I'm serious. Like, not only just because I don't want him to play against my Colts because he's a good receiver, but you're right. Like, the Colts have a problem. The Colts had 3 guys that got busted. When you just
Kurt just came up with this. 1990 Steinbrenner suspended for paying a gambler $40 grand to get dirt on Dave Winfield. I do remember that. Thank you, Curtis. Curtis is the best, man.
I just think when you put the hammer down on these guys and you set examples, that it deters, especially the
bigger
kids
example
to
than
do
Pete Rose. Lifetime ban. He can't even. He has to get permission to go to a stadium.
I'm just thinking of Shador Sanders. Like, let's say he gets in trouble with this, dude. Not only are you going to go to prison, that $2.5 million you made in 6 days, gone, and you're never going to get it again. So, if you mess up like that, if you want to walk that line and think that you can get away with it, you're going to be wrong, because everyone's watching.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone's watching now. And now that it is legal, there are so many more people who know about the line, who know about the over and under. And when things look a little funny, you're being watched. And we'll go to some security camera and we'll see all about it. And it shouldn't be a cakewalk after you're punished.
All right, we are live from the Mohegan Sun right outside the Wolf Den. Things are starting to heat up. I can hear the band warming up behind us. We love that when they start doing sound checks while we're live on the air. You may hear a little bit of that, but it's just ambient noise. Don't be freaked out by it. We're not at a concert.
Yeah, we are.
Well, we are, but it's at the Wolf Den about 1,000 yards behind us. Anyway, we are live here until 7 o'clock tonight. Adam Giardino will join us next hour, and we are looking forward to the CT Sun versus the Indiana Fever later tonight. We'll be right back on your afternoon drive with Robin, Ben, and Kurt, and John, and everybody else.